family of the Prophet ﷺ is obviously the Al-Bayt, is the uncles of the Prophet, Hamza radiallahu anhu, Sayyidina Hamza. We go visit him, honor him, the Shuhada of Uhud. And Al-Abbas, Aqil, who's Sheikh Abdullah al-Qadi's grandfather. All these people, we honor them and love them, and then their children, and then the children, Ja'far, the cousins, and their children, Al-Ja'far. You know, last night I was with 5 or 6 of them, you know, just from Al-Ahsad, they're from Al-Ja'far. And you should love them because they're the children of the Prophet's family. And anybody who has intisab, many people have intisab. Some people look at it like, how's that possible? Well, it's very easy. The majority of people on the earth, according to Khalid Blanchard, probably have some blood from the Prophet ﷺ, even the non-Muslims. Queen Elizabeth claims it in her lineage. John Kerry, if you look at peerage, Bert's peerage, John Kerry has, the man that ran for president, he has blood from the family of the Prophet ﷺ through a Persian connection. So a lot of people have blood. But descendants are people that have a lineage directly to the Prophet with a tree. Now, there are people that don't have that. I mean, they have trees, but they're not real. That's true, because it was a very prestigious thing. So you find that. But what I've noted is that there are people that have firasa and can see the family. And I've seen this many, many times. I really have. I'll give you one example. There's a man in Mauritania, Muhammad Zain, who's a sharif, very spiritual man, really amazing, scholar, lives out there. He's the only person I've ever seen Marat al-Hajj actually get up to greet and when he comes to visit. But I brought somebody from New York who was there, Egyptian, and we visited. And Muhammad Zain said to me, is he a sharif? And I said, not that I know of. And he said, no, he's a Hassani, you know, he's from the family of Hassan. And I told the person that they didn't know about it. When we got back to New York, I asked his mother, you know, what their lineage was. And she said, well, my grandfather says that we're Hassanis. You know, but I never took that seriously. I've seen that many times. I mean, I was with somebody in here, we were in Morocco, and one of the people there also asked me, is that person from the Sada, from India? And I said, yes. And he said, mashallah, you know, ahlan bisada. So there's people that see it like it's real. And some of them, they've got, I saw a man the other day, it was so clearly a Sayyid, you know, and I just said, you know, are you from the Sada? He just started crying. Because a lot of them are ashamed of it now. You know, it's like they feel so much shortcoming, you know, because of the responsibility. But really honoring the family of the Prophet. There's no doubt some of the family abused their rank amongst the Muslims, because Muslims used to really take this very seriously. In Egypt, it was a law during the Mamluk period. You had to actually wear a turban to distinguish that you were from the family, so that nobody from the family would be insulted or mistreated. So the men had to wear green turbans. It was actually a law. If you were a Sayyid, you were supposed to wear a distinctive badge of honor. So many of the great ulama were Sada. There's also ghulu in it. Some of the Shia tradition go to an extreme and say that the Aimma are infallible. We don't believe that. They're human beings, they make mistakes. And so some of the Sada have abused that. But even Sidi Ahmed Zarruq said, even if they abuse it, or they're sinners, or they're distant from Allah, you should always have compassion and mercy for them, and look at them as your best friend and most beloved's child, that you just feel bad for them. Like you don't have any animosity towards them. Even if they do something to you wrong, you don't. And that's why Imam Malik, when he was whipped unjustly by the governor here, who was a descendant of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that every time the soldier raised the whip, he asked forgiveness for Mansur for doing that, because of his place in relation to the Prophet ﷺ. That's love. So it's important to really love the family. And the Muslims have lost this quality. You know, we've just lost adab, we've lost, you know, traditionally they always made sure that the Sada, if they were there, because they're descendants of the Prophet ﷺ. And then on the other hand, to the Sada, because there are people in here that are related to the Prophet, there's an obligation to be noblesse oblige, like the French say. You know, nobility obliges you to behave in certain ways. So there's an onus also on the Sada to behave with dignity, to not do things that are inappropriate for their... I mean, this is true for anybody, but in particular, more so. It's like fasting. When you fast, it's haram to backbite. But when you fast, it's really haram. Do you know, when you're in Mecca, things are not the same as when you're outside of Mecca. It's still haram to do certain things, but in Mecca, it's really haram. It's much more serious. And the same is true for the Sada. It's the way it is, because the blood of the Prophet runs in their veins, and the Prophet never intended for any of his offspring to be other than righteous servants of God. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. That was his desire. He made dua for his own dhurriya. So no matter how far they go astray, they're still his children, and we should hope for the best for them and good for them always. Make dua for them. Treat them with courtesy always. Because they're Sada. And if they're ulama, then they have a double right. They're Sayyid and Alim, they have double right. Ibn Abbas, Usama bin Zayd, when he took Ibn Abbas out, Ibn Abbas was taking him out, and he said, no, this is far enough. And he said, no, we were commanded to do this with our ulama, because he was from the ulama. And he kissed him and he said, we are commanded to do this with the family of the Prophet ﷺ.